I'm not saying you have to cut people off, never speak to them again. I am saying you should put up some boundaries. You don't have to make a big announcement. Like I did, just little by little, spend less and less time with that person. If you don't get the wrong people out of your life, you'll never meet the right one.
There was a time when Pastor Joel Osteen was one of the most loved and respected religious figures in America. Known for his charming smile, calm voice, and positive attitude, he inspired millions to believe in themselves and trust God's plan. But behind the bright lights, best-selling books, and televised sermons lies a story that's much more complicated. The man once called the smiling preacher has faced scandals, criticism, and a growing backlash that has deeply affected his image and reputation. From a small church in Houston to a media empire worth millions, Joel Osteen's journey shows how faith, fame, and fortune can mix in ways that change everything. Today, we take a deep look at the rise, the glory, and the controversies that have surrounded one of the world's most famous pastors, and why some say he'll never truly work the same way again. Joel Scott Osteen was born on March 5, 1963, in Houston, Texas, into a family deeply rooted in faith. His father, John Osteen, was a Southern Baptist pastor who had a powerful change of heart after his daughter, Lisa, was born with serious health issues. That life-changing moment led John to start preaching about healing and miracles, and in 1959, he and his wife, Dodie, founded Lakewood Church inside an old feed store. The church was small, only 234 seats, but filled with strong belief and love. Growing up, Joel was surrounded by faith, but he never wanted to preach. He was shy, quiet, and more interested in working behind the camera. After high school, he studied television and radio at Oral Roberts University but dropped out before graduating. Instead, he returned home and started Lakewood's television ministry, handling everything from cameras to lights. For nearly 17 years, Joel stayed behind the scenes, helping his father reach millions of viewers. He often said, "Daddy, you're the preacher. I'll just make you look good." But everything changed in 1999 when he finally agreed to preach one Sunday, and 6 days later, his father died suddenly of a heart attack. That one decision would change the direction of his life forever. After his father's death, Joel Osteen found himself standing at the front of the church for the very first time as the new senior pastor of Lakewood. He had no formal religious training, no degree from a seminary, and no experience preaching regularly. What he did have was heart. His messages weren't filled with warnings or fear. Instead, he talked about hope, dreams, and believing in God's goodness. His calm voice and warm smile gave people comfort. Critics called him too soft and accused him of preaching a feel-good gospel, but people loved it. Attendance grew from 8,000 to over 25,000 in just a few years. By 2003, Joel made one of his biggest decisions, to move Lakewood Church into Houston's massive Compaq Center, a former basketball arena. The project cost around $90 million to renovate, and many thought it was impossible. But when the new building opened in 2005, 16,000 seats were filled, and millions more watched on TV. Joel had transformed his father's small church into America's largest megachurch. His message of staying positive, trusting God, and expecting blessings touched people all over the world. It was clear, Joel Osteen wasn't just a preacher anymore. He was becoming a brand. In 2004, Joel Osteen released his first book, Your Best Life Now, and it changed everything. The book wasn't filled with heavy theology. It was simple, friendly, and full of encouragement. Within months, it sold over 1 million copies and stayed on the New York Times bestseller list for nearly 4 years. People everywhere, even those who didn't go to church, felt inspired by his words. The book's success turned Joel into a global name. He appeared on shows like Oprah and Larry King Live, bringing his message of hope to even wider audiences. But behind the message of faith and happiness, Joel was also building something else, a powerful business empire. By 2005, he made the decision to stop taking a salary from the church and focused instead on his books, public speaking, and media appearances. His books continued to sell millions, and his speaking events often filled arenas where people paid to hear him in person. One of his books, Become a Better You, earned him over $13 million in royalties and advance payments alone. Before long, Joel Osteen had become one of the wealthiest pastors in the world, with an estimated fortune reaching $100 million. What started as faith had now turned into a multimillion-dollar media brand. In 1985, before all the fame, Joel walked into a jewelry store in Houston to replace the battery in his watch. Behind the counter was a young woman named Victoria Loff. That small moment turned into a lifelong love story. They married in 1987, and together, they built a partnership that would become one of the most powerful in American religion. Victoria eventually became co-pastor of Lakewood Church and launched her own women's ministry. In 2008, she published Love Your Life, which became a bestseller. The couple had 2 children, Jonathan and Alexandra, both of whom followed their parents' path into ministry and music. Their son Jonathan leads worship and preaches occasionally, while their daughter Alexandra sings in the church's band, Ella. The Osteen family became a symbol of unity and faith, but also of wealth. Their mansion in River Oaks, one of Houston's most expensive neighborhoods, is worth more than $10 million and spans over 17,000 square feet. For critics, this was proof of hypocrisy. How could a pastor live in such luxury while preaching humility? Joel explained that he earns his money from books and events, not church donations. Still, for many, it raised a question: is this really what faith is supposed to look like? Joel Osteen's teachings fall under what many call the prosperity gospel, the belief that faith and positive thinking can bring wealth and success. His sermons often focus on hope, happiness, and believing for blessings rather than on sin, repentance, or sacrifice. He tells people that God wants them to live healthy, debt-free, and successful lives. Millions find comfort in his words. But not everyone agrees. Many Christian scholars and pastors have accused Osteen of spreading a false message, one that makes people think God is a tool for getting rich or that faith guarantees an easy life. They argue that the Bible warns against greed and materialism, while Osteen's sermons often celebrate them. Others say his focus on positivity leaves out the harder truths about struggle and redemption. He rarely mentions topics like hell or sin, explaining that he prefers to keep messages uplifting and not bring people down. Supporters see him as a source of hope in a dark world. Critics call it Christianity without a cross. The debate over his preaching style continues even today, as some claim he's turned religion into entertainment rather than worship. By the mid-2010s, Joel Osteen had become more than just a pastor, he was a celebrity. His social media following grew into the tens of millions, and his Night of Hope events filled arenas across America and even overseas. Tickets for these events often sold for around $15 each, and thousands attended. In 2019, he filled London's Wembley Arena, showing that his influence stretched far beyond the United States. But along with his fame came growing criticism. Many saw Lakewood Church as a business empire rather than a house of worship. The church operates with an annual budget of around $70 million and employs hundreds of staff members. Joel's calm, polished image and well-rehearsed 27-minute sermons made him a master of media presentation. He memorizes every sermon word for word and practices them like an actor. This professionalism helped him reach millions, but it also made some people feel that his messages lacked spiritual depth. Behind the smiles and the lights, more people began to ask, is Joel Osteen truly spreading faith, or is he selling it? The year 2020 brought one of the biggest challenges to Joel Osteen's reputation. As the world faced lockdowns, job losses, and uncertainty, news broke that Lakewood Church, one of the richest churches in America, had taken $4.4 million from the government's Paycheck Protection Program, also known as the PPP loan. This program was designed to help small businesses survive, not massive churches with multi-million-dollar budgets. When the public found out, the backlash was immediate. Many people were shocked that a church bringing in nearly $90 million each year had accepted government money. Critics said it was unethical for a religious organization with so much wealth to take aid meant for struggling families and small companies. Even though the loan was used to pay salaries for about 370 employees, the outrage was overwhelming. Joel Osteen's smiling image took a serious hit. Under heavy pressure, Lakewood eventually returned the entire amount in 2021, but the damage was done. The story spread across major news outlets, and the public's trust in Osteen's ministry started to crack. For many, it confirmed what they had long suspected, that faith at Lakewood had become more about finances than forgiveness. The PPP loan wasn't the only time Joel Osteen faced criticism for his actions during a crisis. In 2017, when Hurricane Harvey devastated Houston, thousands of people were left homeless or stranded. Lakewood Church, which could hold over 16,000 people, initially didn't open its doors to shelter victims. The church claimed that flooding made it unsafe, but photos shared online told a different story. Social media exploded with anger, accusing Osteen of turning away the very people his sermons claimed to care about. Under intense pressure, Lakewood opened its doors days later, offering food, shelter, and supplies. Still, for many, it was too late. The damage to his reputation had already spread worldwide. The incident made people question whether Osteen's message of kindness and compassion was real or just words for the camera. Even though the church later helped raise millions for relief efforts, the memory of those locked doors remains one of the darkest moments in Joel Osteen's public life. It became a symbol of what critics see as the gap between his preaching and his practice. Despite the scandals, Joel Osteen's influence hasn't completely faded. Lakewood Church still draws tens of thousands of people each week and reaches millions more through television and social media. His books continue to sell, his family remains active in ministry, and his message of positivity still touches hearts around the world. His children, Jonathan and Alexandra, are stepping into leadership roles, ensuring that Lakewood's future remains a family affair. But the world has changed. More people today question the link between religion and wealth, and younger generations are less trusting of megachurches. The prosperity gospel that once made Joel Osteen famous is now being challenged more than ever. While he continues to preach about hope and blessings, many feel the shine of his message has faded. Faith, they argue, isn't about comfort or luxury, it's about truth, sacrifice, and service. And that's the struggle Joel faces today. How to remain relevant in a time when many see him as a symbol of everything wrong with modern religion. For over 2 decades, Joel Osteen has told people to stay positive, speak good words, and expect blessings. His voice has calmed millions of hearts, and his smile has given hope to those in pain. But behind that smile is a man who has faced heavy criticism, pressure, and doubt. He is not the same shy young man who once hid behind a camera at his father's church. He became a symbol of faith for some and a symbol of greed for others. The controversies, the backlash, and the constant public attention have taken their toll. Still, Joel Osteen continues to preach every Sunday, holding on to the same message that made him famous, that no matter what happens, faith can move mountains. Whether people believe in his methods or not, there's no denying his impact. He changed the face of modern preaching and built a global empire from a simple message of hope. Yet, as the years go by, it's clear that the Joel Osteen who once inspired millions is now living in a world where every word, every decision, and every smile is questioned. And that's why some say Pastor Joel Osteen will never work again, not because he can't, but because the world no longer sees him the same way. Joel Osteen's story is one of incredible highs and painful lows. From his humble beginnings to becoming one of the most recognized religious figures on earth, he built a life that many could only dream of. But success came with a price. His name, once associated with hope and inspiration, now also carries controversy and doubt. For some, he remains a guiding light who reminds them to keep believing in better days. For others, he represents a dangerous blend of money, fame, and faith. Yet, beyond all the criticism and praise, Joel Osteen's journey is undeniably powerful. It forces us to ask deeper questions. Can faith survive when it becomes a business? Can a man still preach about humility while living in luxury? And most of all, can someone who has faced so much public judgment ever find peace again? No matter what side you stand on, one thing is clear: Joel Osteen's story isn't just about religion or wealth. It's about the struggle between image and reality, between belief and business, and between the man we see on stage and the human being behind the smile. Even after decades in the public eye, Pastor Joel Osteen continues to deliver his message of positivity and hope to millions every week. His sermons still begin with that same warm smile and a gentle reminder to start each day with gratitude. Osteen often says that life is full of challenges, but focusing on blessings instead of problems can change everything. Whether you agree with him or not, his ability to inspire through simple, uplifting words is undeniable. Every Sunday, thousands gather at Lakewood Church while millions more watch online or on television. In a world full of negativity, Joel's message of staying strong, keeping faith, and speaking good things into existence continues to reach people who feel lost or broken. He believes that words have power, that when you speak faith, you create room for miracles. His critics may call his sermon shallow, but for many, they offer the motivation to keep going in hard times. It's not theology that draws them in, it's the feeling of being reminded that life, despite its storms, can still be beautiful. As the world moves deeper into the digital age, Joel Osteen has embraced technology to expand his ministry even further. Lakewood's online presence is massive, with millions of followers on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. During the pandemic, when churches around the world were forced to close, Osteen's team adapted quickly. They began streaming high-quality online services, reaching homes across continents. What began as a local Houston ministry decades ago is now a worldwide broadcast touching lives in more than 100 countries. This digital transformation has made Joel one of the most influential Christian voices online. His short motivational clips are shared across social media, often going viral and inspiring people far beyond religious circles. Osteen has also continued his Night of Hope tours, which are now live-streamed for free so people who can't afford tickets can still join virtually. For all the controversy around him, one thing is clear: Joel understands how to use modern tools to spread an ancient message, that faith and hope can still change lives, even in a world dominated by screens and noise.